I moved into a new apartment 2 weeks ago. It wasn't anything special. A small one-bedroom unit in an older building downtown. The rent was cheap, and I didn't ask too many questions because, honestly, I couldn't afford to be picky. The landlord, an older woman with deep lines on her face, handed me the keys and said something strange as I was signing the lease. "Don't bother the neighbors," she said, "and don't let them bother you." I laughed it off at the time, thinking it was just small talk. But now, I'm not so sure. The building was old, but it was quiet. Too quiet. At night, the silence pressed against my ears like a weight. My first few nights were uneventful. The other tenants seemed to keep to themselves. In fact, I never saw anyone come or go. The only time I heard anything was late at night, around 2 or 3 a.m. That's when I would hear footsteps, slow, deliberate, pacing back and forth in the hallway. At first, I thought it was a neighbor with insomnia or someone coming home late from work. But the sound was strange. It didn't sound like normal footsteps. They were heavy, dragging slightly, like whoever it was carrying something. One night, as I lay in bed listening to the footsteps, I decided to peek out through my peephole. The hallway light was dim, flickering faintly. At the far end of the hall, near the last door, I saw a figure. They were standing completely still, their back to me. They wore something dark, like an old coat, and their hair looked matted, almost wet. I stared for what felt like minutes, my heart pounding. Then, slowly, they turned their head, not their body, just their head, toward my door. I stumbled back, heart racing. When I gathered the courage to look again, the hallway was empty. The next morning, I told myself it was a trick of the light or maybe even a dream. But things got worse. I started hearing whispers at night, faint and just low enough that I couldn't make out what they were saying. They seemed to come from the walls, the ceiling, even my own closet. One night, I woke up to the sound of knocking. 3 sharp knocks like someone at my door. I froze. The clock read 3:03 a.m. I lay there listening. The knocking came again, louder this time. "Hello?" I called out, my voice shaking. Silence. I grabbed the closest thing I could find, a heavy lamp, and crept toward the door. I pressed my eye to the peephole. Nothing. The hallway was empty. The next day, the same thing happened, and I couldn't sleep. Every sound, every creak of the old building sent my heart racing. At around 2:30 a.m., the footsteps started again. They were closer this time, louder. I stayed in bed, clutching my phone, debating whether to call someone. Then the whispers started, growing louder and louder until they were almost deafening. I snapped. I grabbed my flashlight and stormed out into the hallway. "Who's there?" I shouted. The hallway was empty, but the whispers didn't stop. They seemed to come from the door at the end of the hall, the door that was supposed to be empty. I walked toward it, my flashlight shaking in my hand. The closer I got, the louder the whispers became. They weren't in English anymore, or at least not any language I recognized. They sounded guttural, like a chant. When I reached the door, I realized it was slightly ajar. I pushed it open. The room was completely empty. No furniture, no lights, just 4 bare walls. But in the center of the room, carved into the floor, was a symbol. It looked like a circle with jagged lines running through it, like some kind of ritual marking. The air in the room was ice cold, and it smelled faintly of something metallic, like blood. I stepped closer, my flashlight flickering. The whispers stopped. Silence fell over the room. And then, from the corner of my eye, I saw something move. It was 2 homeless-looking men, like they hadn't showered in years. They were crouched in the corner, their back to me, their head tilted at an unnatural angle. "Why did you come here?" they said. But the voice didn't come from them. It came from behind me. That's when I lost it. I turned, pushed the man who stood behind me, and I bolted down the building stairs to get as far as possible. I didn't stop running until I was halfway down the block. My chest was heaving, my breath visible in the cold night air. I turned around to look at the building, expecting, I don't know what, maybe to see someone, those men, following me. But the front of the building was quiet, just a dimly lit doorway and darkened windows staring back at me like nothing had happened. I fumbled for my phone, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hit the buttons. I called the landlord. She picked up on the third ring. "What?" "There were people," I said, my words spilling out faster than I could control. "In the apartment, at the end of the hall. 2 men. One was behind me. I don't know what the hell is going on, but I need—" She cut me off. "Go to the police," she said quietly. "Don't come back here tonight. Just go." "What the hell are you talking about? Who are they? What were they doing in there?" "I don't know," she said. The line went dead. Her words sent a chill down my spine. I looked up and down the street. It was empty, the kind of quiet that made you feel like the world had gone to sleep and forgotten you were still awake. The nearest police station wasn't far. I decided to walk. Running made me feel like a target, like I was announcing my fear to whatever might be watching. My footsteps echoed against the pavement as I kept checking behind me, expecting to see something, someone, following. But the street stayed empty. When I got to the station, the fluorescent lights inside felt harsh, almost blinding after the dim shadows of the street. "I need help," I said, out of breath. There's something happening in my apartment building." "What kind of something?" I tried to explain. The strange noises, the whispers, the men in the room. He didn't look convinced. I could see it in his face, but he agreed to come with me to check it out. When we got back there, the men were long gone. What they left behind was absolutely terrifying. Satanic symbols everywhere, some of them carved in blood, even animal sacrifices. That's when I decided it was enough. I went back to my apartment, packed everything, and spent the night in my car. The next day, I decided I'm just gonna leave, not gonna tell the landlord I'm leaving, and not gonna check what else they found there. I just hope one day I'll recover from what I saw that night.